All right, guys. Sorry for the impromptu random evening chat. I want to introduce you to my friend Justin Opinion. He has a YouTube channel, and thank you for joining us, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tim. Appreciate it.
So we've been wanting to do this for a while. We've been trying to get together and do a live stream together. Hey, by the way, guys, tell me if super chats are working because last time we did a stream, they weren't, and I don't know if it's something's broken or if they've been taken away from me or what, but. Um, Anyway, so yeah, we've been wanting to get together and do a stream together, and I've wanted to talk about this Virginia thing, and I know that that's something you want to talk about as well, man.
Yep. Yep.
And that, and then we had another thing go down today, where
Yep.
we had a tragic shooting in a church, and if you can't tell from my logo, I'm a Christian. I have a Christian cross in my logo. For the channel, and when I go to church, I carry a gun. And where I live, it's perfectly legal. There are no laws against it. Matter of fact, in my state, there's no laws against carrying a firearm in a bar, and there's no law against carrying a firearm in a bar and having a drink, which a lot of people find surprising. But I think it's important that folks carry all the time. But let's get into that later. Let's talk about this Virginia thing. What do you say, man?
Yep.
So what are your thoughts? I'll let you kind of start off. I tend to dominate the conversations, so just you start off, and I'm going to look and see if we have
That's
super
right.
chats or not because this is driving me nuts whether or not it's working.
Yep. So yeah, so I started paying attention a little bit more when it was kind of clear that Bloomberg was buying seats in the Virginia legislature. And of course, he's trying to do that all over the country. He's trying to do it here where I live. He's probably trying to do it where you live and most of the people watching, even if we're not aware of it. But it became apparent that he was having some success there. And then come election time, he had some overwhelming success. He was able to sort of tip the scales, if you will. And he turned Virginia from being pretty red to being pretty blue overnight. They've already got a governor who's vehemently anti-gun,
Yeah.
and he's made no secrets about his wish list of things that he'd like to do, and now he's got a legislature behind him that can hand him the paper to sign. And that's a scary situation. So I think, at that point, I think we've all started to pay attention. And there's been a lot of talk, a lot of big talk coming from the governor's office, coming from the legislature that we've not heard before. They're being much more frank and open and hostile than they've been almost anywhere
Threatening.
in the past. Yes, very much so.
And that's one thing I thought was weird. Somebody had made a super chat. Thank you guys. Super chat's working, and we greatly appreciate that. And we'll try to bring up your super chats where we can. Thank you for the test, the $2 test. So we saw a federal representative, I forget his name, who said some stupid off-the-cuff remark about, well, we have nuclear weapons when talking about American citizens resisting tyranny with firearms. And then we saw the governor, Northam, he actually said that he would use the National Guard to enforce law. Now, there's this little thing called the Posse Comitatus Act, and the National Guard really blurs the line because the modern day National Guard is an extension of the U.S. military. When you join the Guard, you go to boot camp or what do they call it? Basic. We call it, I was in the Marine Corps, so we call it boot camp. But you go to boot camp that's federally funded. Most of the vehicles that the Guard units have are supplied by the feds. The weapons are supplied by the feds. The ammunition supplied by the feds. So, and then the Posse Comitatus Act says you cannot use federal forces or federal money to enforce law on civilians in the United States without presidential action. So that means Trump would have to federalize the National Guard and then say, go confiscate firearms. If the governor attempts to do that, that's going to cause a constitutional crisis. But they've threatened to do it.
Right.
And then you have the whole dilemma of guardsmen, will they do it or not? Now, some people will cite Katrina, where they had guardsmen going around door to door, taking firearms from people. We had, that going on. I've heard conflicting stories as to what really happened. So there's a lot of big questions there, but that's a big threat to make, because when you say I'm going to use military forces to come kick in your door and take your private property that has not been taken away from you through due process, I mean, there's all sorts of constitutional violations there that people are rightly upset about. And we've seen massive turnouts at rallies all across the state. And I was just looking. There's a website, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's called Virginia Citizens Defense League, and we just recently did a T-shirt design where we're donating proceeds from that shirt to these guys because they're on the front lines there in Virginia. And they have a map up. I'll bring it up here for you guys. I'm just scrolling through the website right now. So right now we have 87 counties and 10 cities and 18 towns that are sanctuary cities, towns, or jurisdictions. That's, 87 counties out of, I believe, 95. 87 of them are now sanctuaries. And this in and of itself is going to cause something of a potential constitutional crisis or state crisis, because you have the state legislature saying, and the governor saying, you can't do that. Law enforcement, if you don't enforce our laws, we're going to arrest you. With what? State troopers? What if the state troopers aren't going along with it? The sheriffs are giving them the big middle finger. a lot of local law enforcement, big middle finger. I would imagine state police going to give them a big middle finger. So who's going to arrest the law enforcement that are saying, no, we're protecting the citizens. We took an oath of office we take seriously. And no, we're not going to go around taking people's property away, and we're not going to arrest people for having 30 round magazines. Kind of what happened in Colorado, right? Yeah. That law is completely ignored by law enforcement. It's a joke. People run around public ranges with 30 round magazines, and local law enforcement shoot right alongside of them and laugh. It's right. Just being ignored. But,
I think where the sheriffs have a bit of an advantage is that they can deputize, and they could in theory deputize every able-bodied man in their county.
And that's been said.
And so
there has been a sheriff that said he will deputize everybody.
Yeah, and so that that is a way for them to quickly enumerate themselves, whereas the state police, for example, couldn't do that. It would take, even if the money was there and the willingness was there, it would be a slow process. But none of that certainly is anything I think anybody wants to see come to fruition. We don't ever want to have to be placing our bets on who's going to win that type of a struggle. But
no.
It is definitely a tinderbox.
It most certainly is. And I kind of liken it to being the next Concord, right? And the whole nation's watching because, and I just threw up a map here of what the state of Virginia looks like right now. The black is not playing ball. They're the ones going with the gun confiscation scheme and these goofy laws. And all those green areas, those are 2A sanctuaries. Those are counties that have said, no, we're not doing this. So, it's important that people realize that the whole nation's watching this. And there was a recent event called the Bundy Ranch incident, and the Bundys completely lost their marbles eventually. But the Bundy Ranch standoff was an important part of American history, because in my entire life, I never thought I would see federal agents back down by citizens. Yeah. Because I lived through Waco. I lived through Ruby Ridge. I watched what happened when the government just murdered people. And this time we had armed citizens showing up saying, the BLM is taxing without tax authority. They're just calling it, fees. And they keep raising the fees and running the ranchers off BLM land. Well, what's the federal government doing owning 60% of a state anyway? But anyway, so you had the whole Bundy Ranch standoff where federal agents went there to arrest Bundy and to take his cattle, and they just said no. The American citizens put their foot down and said no, and that's exactly what the Second Amendment is for, and it worked. And so you have that precedent, which I never thought I'd live to see. And it gives me hope that Americans will stand up for their rights, that they won't let the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment get flushed down the toilet by Bloomberg and his cronies and these far left loons that want to embrace socialism and communism. And
Right.
people say, well, the Communist Manifesto said arm everybody. Well, that's not what we got here. Our particular flavor wants to disarm everybody to make you a subject of the crown. And we're citizens, we're not subjects. And if you're going to subjugate us, I would hope we'll fight back. And so we're all watching. I know I'm watching, and I plan to go to Virginia here shortly. I can't make the 20th, unfortunately, but I am going to Virginia. Gun Owners of America are based out of Virginia. I'm going to hang out with them. I'm going to hit some gun stores. I'm going to hang out with some patriots at local firing ranges and gun stores, and going to show some support for what's going on there. And if things go sideways, I'm going to continue to show support. I'm not going to go into details, but it's important that Americans stand up for our rights. And this is a potential tinderbox, but it's also a bit of a looking glass. And I know the federal government's watching this as to what might happen in 10, 20, 30, 40 years as they, progress slowly towards their own confiscation schemes and 30-round magazine ban schemes and, whatever else they have up their sleeve, ultimately marching towards the total end of being all guns are illegal. And if you have one, you're going to prison for the rest of your life.
Yep.
So it's important, guys. Please watch what's going on in Virginia. If you can assist, please do. And if things go sideways, I just hope patriots show up. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think I'm usually not very optimistic about things, but I'm optimistic in that if people act, and if they act proportionately and appropriately, at this point in time, that action is emails and phone calls and letters and showing up to meet their legislators and express their position and what they feel they expect from their legislators and things like that. And if enough people are doing that, you'd be amazed how these people will start to back down and start to realize that, okay, come next election time, I might not, I might be looking at a pink slip if I don't, if I don't back off of this. Right. And I think that's where they should be right now, and they should be doing that in droves. And if they're not able to do that, and this is, because that's no guarantee. You and I both know that the nasty little secret to gun owners is they sit on their butts, put their feet up, and expect somebody else to fight their fight.
Yeah.
And that includes, unfortunately, hitting the polls when they need to hit the polls. And this is what happens as a result. And so those people hopefully will take this as a sobering wake-up call and go, I liken it to, we in the gun culture and in the self-defense culture and concealed carry culture, we talk about, you can't farm out your self-defense. Your protection of yourself and your family is not something that you can farm out to somebody else, be it the police or whomever.
Right.
Well, the same thing goes for the fight for your rights. And while you should belong to, I think you should belong to every organization that's fighting for the Second Amendment freedoms. They can't be fighting your fight totally for you. You have got to be actively involved. You can't just defer that to them. Well, I wrote them a check, so I'm good. I don't have to do anything now. You have to do both. I think you have to do both.
Yeah, I agree. And one super chat, $20. Thank you so much. The world is watching us right now, and I believe that they are. And we've seen a whole lot happen. As we mentioned before, Virginia was a solidly pro-gun state, one of the highest ownerships of firearms in private hands of all 50 states. I mean, it's very much a gun culture there. Very much a rural hunting culture, very much a self-defense culture, very much a patriotic culture. I mean, they have Sic Semper Tyrannis on their flag, right? And overnight, because you have a billionaire that's a socialist pumping millions into elections. See, this is a strategic thing that I've been warning about for a while now. The anti-gun movement hasn't seen much success at the federal level. So what they're doing, you have the Bloombergs of the world dumping money and resources into states, because where they can't succeed at the federal level, they find great success one by one in states. And the fact that they flipped Virginia of all states should be a wake-up call to the other 49. Like, wow, this can happen here in the United States.
That's right.
Now, because of so many people basically we have a military standoff right now. We have armed patriots in Virginia saying, not taking them, come get them, and we have the politicians that were threatening in the beginning, we're going to roll the tanks, we're going to squash you like bugs. Now they're saying, oh, but okay, well, you know what? Look, we don't really want to confiscate anything. We just want to register stuff. Right. And everybody with two brain cells to rub together knows that registration leads to confiscation. You tell them you got it, then they know exactly where to come when they got the votes. And so you're seeing this ebb and flow and give and take. And they are taking notice, because I think politicians are slowly starting to realize that we're not kidding. What people say on the internet and what patriots are saying at gun counters across America, and they're, at Christmas dinner across the dinner table, those conversations aren't tongue in cheek. And politicians are starting to realize that there might be very real consequences to their actions. It's not just a simple matter of being voted out. They could start civil unrest. They could start, at the worst thing that could happen, it's something I don't want to see, a civil war. But that Virginia could be the tinderbox that starts it all. This is like the Cold War. You know what I mean? It's like you have two sides that are ready to go, and we're just waiting to see who blinks. And it's a dangerous game we're playing, and I don't want to play it. I would just rather these politicians pull their heads out of their keisters and realize, the Constitution is a real thing and it needs to be respected. And you took an oath of office. It doesn't say wipe your rear end with the Constitution. It says I swear to uphold and defend the Constitution. It doesn't mean just Article 1 and Article 9. It means the whole darn document. And anything short of that is tyranny, and that makes you a traitor to the Constitution, in my humble opinion.
Yep, I share it.
But we do have super chats going, guys. Thank you so much for the super chats. It helps tremendously. I'm trying to scroll through all the comments here. I'm going to throw up the super chats so folks can read them. Are you going to VA on January 20th? So we start off the video. I said that it was really bad timing on their part to pick the 20th, because the entire gun community is traveling then. That's when SHOT Show's going on. I already have plane tickets and hotel reservations that are non-refundable, but I will be in Virginia after the 20th. And it's on a Monday, and it's on the 20th, just days before the biggest industry event, what we do for a living. So that was just bad timing, but I will be there. And we'll let you guys know on the channel, on our Facebook page, and especially our Patreons and our YouTube members. We will let you guys know where we're going to be, and we'll make arrangements to meet with folks. Let's see. Oh, look at this. Hi, Mac. Hi, Justin. Thanks, man. we appreciate that. Just going through trying to see if I got to make sure I get all the super chats, and then I got to we'll try to grab some comments here. But then I want to talk about this church shooting. I want to try to keep it to about an hour or a little less. So we keep people's attention. Money is powerful, but it's not as powerful as the collective voice. Stand together. The Gadsden stake should be updated to 50 rattles. I agree. We and that's from the Daily Shooter, another channel you guys should check out. We do have to stand together. And Justin, you kind of touched upon this, and this is something I think it's critical for people to understand. And I've said this before in video. When a Republican sits at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, gun owners go to sleep. They just assume the Republicans are going to save them. The 89 import ban, Republican. The 86 machine gun ban, Republican. We had the 94 assault weapons ban under Clinton, but it sunset in 10 years and it went away. In my lifetime, Republicans have passed and signed into law more anti-gun laws than the Democrats. Now, that's not to say I'm a Democrat or I'm saying go vote for Democrats. That's not for a lack of trying on the Democrats' part. That's because when a Democrat sits at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, gun owners spring to life. They panic buy and they vote. They rally in front of their state houses. They rally in D.C. They come to life. But when a Republican takes office, they go to sleep. And like you said, they kick their shoes up and they go, yep, we got this for 4 years. We're going to do nothing. When Trump
Right.
took office, first of all, he lied. He's done nothing his entire administration. He's done more anti-gun stuff than Obama did in 8 years, and we're only 3 years into his term. And I'm not saying don't vote for Trump. Stop saying that. That's a mindless argument. What I'm saying is hold him accountable. Send him emails saying, look, you promised this. Keep your promises. You wanted our vote. You told us this. Keep your promises. He's keeping his promises elsewhere, but he's not keeping them to us. Hold him accountable. Stop being a sheep and just voting for an R or a D. That's how we got here. That's how we lose our rights. Hold these Republicans responsible for their actions and their lies. So anyway, but we got to stop this whole thing of people just going to sleep when a Republican has power. But we had the White House when Trump came into power, the House and the Senate. And what did they do? For 2 years, they did nothing. And then they lost the House.
Right.
We didn't. Not see, gun owners are just content not having new anti-gun laws passed. I'm of the opinion for those 2 years we should have been undoing gun laws while we had the majority.
That's right.
And I'm saying we like I'm a Republican. I'm not, because I hate the Republicans as much as I hate the Democrats. The politicians, not the people.
Yeah.
The politicians are just corrupt.
I'm registered independent, and first of all, I think Republicans and Democrats are Coke and Pepsi.
Absolutely.
If you don't like cola, you're really out of luck. But I'm registered independent for a few reasons, but the major reason I think is I don't want anybody to assume they've got my vote. I don't want anybody to count me among their given. So I want them to feel like they have to earn it.
Yeah, I agree. And so I'm an independent. I call myself a libertarian / constitutionalist. In my state, if you want to vote in a primary, and this is just part of the broken system our founding fathers warned us against. They told us not to do this party thing, not to do, a two-party system. They warned us about this. But in my state, you have to be a registered Republican or Democrat to vote in a primary. You can't be an independent. So I have to pick Republican. And so that's just so I can vote, because I vote every election. And I hold my nose and vote because we have a binary choice. And yes, you can write in Mickey Mouse, but I think that's, making a mockery of our system. A lot of people died so we could vote. The vote is critically important. And I just want to say thank you, Doc's Guns, brother, $100 super chat. Let's start an Indiana Defense League. We need your social media presence. Let's get in touch offline. I'm politically active. I'm focused right now at the federal level. We're involved in a lawsuit trying to undo the bump stock ban, and I talk to congressmen and senators on both sides of the aisle. They reach out to me. I recently spoke with Dan Crenshaw. We talked about red flag laws. It's stuff that I need to focus here in Indiana, because Indiana can be flipped. I mean, Indiana, just like Illinois, has large population centers that are anti-gun, and I live in a rural area, and we could be flipped probably much easier than Virginia was flipped. Yep. And we do need to be more active, Doc. And so please reach out to me offline. You can go through my public email address, which is tim@military-arms.com, and then I'll look for your email, and then I'll reach out to you through my business address that isn't full of spam. So
now I know Virginia has a state level gun rights organization. Yes. And I apologize to the folks in Virginia. I don't know what it's called, or I can't remember. But I know they have a state level group that fights, year round every year for their rights. And I would definitely urge people to look that organization up. But if you're not a member of it, you should become one if you live in Virginia, and you should be a member in with your feet and with your wallet if you can.
Yeah.
Because those are people, and I'm saying this because just for perspective, I sit on the board of Delaware State Sportsmen's Association, which is that organization in Delaware. And we have some amazing people that are, they live at Legislative Hall when legislature is in session, and they are, always on it. And it's important to support those organizations if you live in that state, and make sure that because those numbers mean something. When they can say, I represent X number of people, that number carries weight.
Oh, absolutely it does. Absolutely does. And I know that a lot of folks have become kind of jaded. They think that our system doesn't work for them anymore. They think their vote doesn't count. And then you have people even making arguments like, well, let's get rid of the Electoral College. No, that's how you get a democracy. And we don't want a democracy. All these idiot politicians. What's that?
I wish we had Electoral College at the state level.
Exactly. People don't understand the importance of the Electoral College and the brilliance our founders had in establishing that. It gives voice to Montana, Wyoming, and the rural areas. If you abolish the Electoral College, that gives you a democracy, and that means the population centers run the politics of the entire country. If you live in rural America, your vote doesn't count. They don't even care. They won't even come campaign with you. They won't even show up. Iowa, they won't even show up there for a primary. They won't care. They'll focus on the high population centers. And that's not even being taught. The importance of it isn't even being taught in a lot of civics classes across America anymore in public schools. We have the Democrats out there openly saying, let's get rid of the Electoral College so they can rig votes, so they can make sure that their socialist agenda gets approved, because there won't be an Electoral College to make sure us that live in the low population areas have a voice and have a vote. We don't want a democracy. That's mob rules. We have a republic, and that's critical to our survival. VSO Gun Channel, I want to give you a shout out, Curtis. Thank you, brother, for jumping on the stream and for the super chat. It is the duty of the National Guard CO to salute the office and then summarily arrest the governor and hold him on half rations until which time his tribunal can be organized. There's a certain truth to that. The National Guard takes an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, and if the governor goes against that, there's this
against who? Foreign and domestic.
That's where I was going. There's a little sentence out there that, we are defending our Constitution against enemies foreign and domestic. And the domestic threats don't see themselves as threats. The Chuck Schumers of the world don't see themselves as a threat. It's in the Nancy Pelosi's and the gang. And they are threats. They're threats to our, and they constantly propose. I remember when President Clinton, this blew my mind. I remember when President Clinton actually proposed a media blackout 30 or 60 days before an election. That you couldn't run campaign ads, you couldn't do anything. What is this, a banana republic? What makes you think that's even okay to suggest? Just basically we're going to turn the First Amendment off for 30 or 60 days before an election because we want to make sure that, nobody can control the narrative and that nobody can say what's on their mind and you can't hear what your candidate's actually wanting to do once they get into power. It's mind-boggling the stuff these politicians propose, and we've seen this insanely brazen behavior lately where they don't even try to mask what they're doing anymore. They used to be very careful about what they said. They wouldn't say confiscation. They would say, we want reasonable restrictions. Everything was reasonable. Now they're outright talking about confiscation. And it used to be you would get a lecture if you were recently elected and you went out there on the airwaves and said, I want to confiscate firearms. You would get pulled into a room saying, oh, you can't tell them that. Don't stop. We'll never get elected again. Now they run on that platform. Did you watch the Democratic debates? They were trying to outdo each other on who could propose the wildest, stupidest gun laws. It was unbelievable. 20 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. But man, I'm sorry. I get on rips in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
But let's see what we got here.
That's one reason why I don't do political videos much, because I go from 0 to tantrum in like 0.9 seconds.
Oh, I'm known for it. I can't help it. I get riled up. And it's because I believe, it's just.
That's it. You're passionate.
Yeah. I just wish Americans would understand what it means to be an American and our core founding principles that make us unique in the world. How we stay free is by following the directives of our founding fathers. They were geniuses. They lived under oppressive governments. They knew exactly what they didn't want, and they knew how to prevent it from happening again. And then they empowered us with a directive of, if we have a tyrannous government that no longer serves our will, that we are tasked with overthrowing that government, and they gave us the tools to do it in the Second Amendment.
And I don't think enough people really remember and think about what those men risked.
Everything. When
You
they
know, when
signed their names to the Declaration of Independence, that they were signing
when
their death orders.
yeah, to this we pledge our lives, our honor, our sacred trust. You know,
And their
and they
fortunes.
meant it. Yeah, they
Yes.
meant it. They
The,
knew it was the gallows if they lost.
the King George would have hung them, if
Yep,
not worse.
yep.
And they knew it. And good old John Hancock, he signed his name so big so that the king could read it without his spectacles. God
Yep,
bless him. And but that's what it means to be an American. It's that type of mentality. It's that rugged individualism. It's the wanting. I don't want the government on my back. I want them out of the picture. I'll take care of myself, thank you. I don't need your help. Right? This let me live my life and stay off my back. I just want to live free. And that means people of all colors, people of all religions, people of all walks of life. I don't care what you do, as long as you're not hurting me or mine, go do it. Live your life. You got one shot. Enjoy it. You don't need a government micromanaging every aspect of your life. And the only way we can keep them from doing it, because governments exist to grow and to gain more power. They
right.
always do. And it's our responsibility to make sure that our government doesn't. And so, so good question. What has the NRA said about Virginia? I didn't renew my membership. Well, yeah, nothing. Right now, the NRA is completely gutted because Wayne LaPierre won't let go of the reins of control, and he's run the organization into the ground. I mean, they've wrecked that organization. His corruption knows no bounds, and now it's all in the public. So the NRA is a paper tiger right now. GOA has 2.5 million members. They're no compromise, and they're constantly fighting, and they're fighting in Virginia right now. And the Firearms Policy Coalition is another one, and Second Amendment Foundation. Let's see what we got going on here, and then we'll jump over to the church, because I think that's really important, because we constantly hear how good guys with guns just don't exist and they never do anything. $5 super chat. Train, organize, plan, and pray. I agree. It's and we're going to talk about that, I think, when we get into the church incident that happened today. And it's our responsibility to be our own first responders. When things go bad, unless you're Hercules and you carry a police officer on your back, you're responsible for your own safety. And the old saying, when seconds matter, the police are only minutes away. That's true. And it's not because the police aren't trying to get to you. It's because you have seconds to respond to a threat. Unless you want to live in a police state where you have a police officer stationed in every home and every street corner and incur the cost of that, you're responsible for your own safety. And that's the way I want it to be. And you need to be responsible. And we're going to talk about that because we have the actual footage from that tragedy in the church today from Texas. Let's see. Go ahead and chime in if you want to say something, Justin. I'm just kind of pulling up some super chats here.
No, just I would think by now probably everybody's at least seen the headline, and if you haven't, it's all over social media about the tragedy today in that church in Texas. But it was a tragedy that could have been and would have been much, much worse had there not been the quote unquote good guy with the gun. But that guy, and if you've seen the video, and I know Tim's going to show it, it's just kudos to this guy.
Yeah.
I hope to go quietly and calmly to my grave without ever having to do what he did today. But God bless him, man. He was all over it.
So there were 4, maybe 5 armed individuals in the church. In the video, you'll see the gunman pull out what looks like a short-barreled shotgun of some sort. I don't think it had stock on it. It would have been something like a Shockwave. He had a short shotgun. He pulled out. It looks like one of the men in front of him. There were 2 men. One of the men reached for something, perhaps a firearm. He wasn't fast enough, and he was shot. And I believe that was the fatality in the shooting, aside from the gunman. And then immediately, 4 other people pulled weapons. One of them was the security guard, which I believe ended the threat with one, really well-placed shot from a good distance. And I was going to roll the video in, but right now I put the video up on Instagram, and within seconds it was pulled down. And it's up on Facebook if you want to see it. The edit, go to the Military Arms Channel Facebook page. It may be pulled down already because Facebook owns Instagram. I don't want to get this video pulled because I think the content of what we're talking about today is pretty important. So I've decided against it. I may post it separately, but if you want to see the video, it's out there. But
there are places. I know Breitbart, I think, has it, and there's some places where you can find it.
Yeah. So they had high resolution cameras in the church, security cameras and audio, and the gunman gets off a shot, hits the first person. Then the security guard, I believe, draws his weapon from a good distance and fires once, puts him down. There seems to be a muzzle flash at the exact moment of firing from the good guy. As soon as he fired, there was a muzzle flash by the bad guy, and people are speculating as to what happened. I suspect he had an involuntary muscle response to being hit in the head. I would imagine because he just dropped like a sack of potatoes. So he was turned off like a light switch, it looked like, and he probably pulled that trigger as he was going down. And then you see other people to stand up from church pews pulling weapons. And I know the church that I went to in the town that we lived in previously, a lot of police officers were there. There's probably 20 or 30 armed people at any given time there. And honestly, folks, you need to be responsible for your own safety. If you go to church, carry. I'm not going to tell you to break the law, but if your state has a law against it, that's an asinine law. Me personally, I would rather be, judged by a jury, and still have my life and protect the lives of my family members and friends. So that's a decision you have to make. But Jim Nugent, brother, thank you so much. $100 super chat. He's one of our Patreons, an amazing dude. It's time for everyone to get involved. The fight is at hand, and we owe the future generations our best effort in preserving our rights. It's absolutely right. The reason I'm so passionate about this stuff, folks, is because I have children, and I want to leave them a free country. And, whatever that means, however far that means I have to go, I'll go, because it's that important to me. I do not want my children growing up in the equivalent of the Soviet Union or, the killing fields in, Cambodia or, wherever, Cuba, pick one, Venezuela. I don't want that for my children. And as long as I'm an able-bodied person, I'm going to do everything in my power, vote and pray that we can get it done that way. But you're absolutely right, man. But it's our responsibility. Go ahead.
No, I think I remember also reading that the church simulcasted their service. And so
it was broadcast live,
right? So that was the reason for the resources that were capturing the video and the audio. It's also very likely, and I don't like being speculative, but it's also very likely part of the motivation to an attacker. Because a lot of times these losers want to get their 5 minutes of fame, right? What better way? And if it was somebody who knew that church simulcast their broadcast their services. And, hey, I get to be famous on what's essentially live TV.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, if they knew that, they had staked it out. But I hope that sends a message to would-be evildoers that churches aren't soft targets. Movie theaters. I mean, here in Indiana, they can put up no firearms signs, and they don't carry the weight of law in our state. Most movie theaters have no gun policies. I'd ignore them. I carry. I'm not going to be at the mercy. I mean, the stupidity in putting those signs up is just mind-numbing. Yeah. It's like these people. How do you get to be that dumb and make it through life?
It's as if this sign is a magic talisman, right, that is going to keep away evil.
Right, a guy sitting in the parking lot like, I'm going to go in there and shoot up this.
I've been waiting for years and saying, and I think I've seen a couple of suits brought forth, and I don't know if anything's ever come of them or anything will come of any of them, but I would love to see a successful civil lawsuit against a company for not providing adequate protection when refusing to allow you to protect yourself.
Absolutely. Those suits should go forward.
Exactly, because a huge lawsuit that would, cause severe financial damage to a company would change that policy in a lot of places.
Yeah. Yep. But to your point, it's like when somebody's about to do something evil, they look in a movie theater, they see the no gun sign, they think it's a soft target. Do you think they're going to walk up to that sign and go, "Oh, poop!
Damn.
It's against the law to bring a gun in here. I better go back to my car and rethink this."
That's right.
I mean, basically, just put a big sign up outside that says, "Come on in, shoot everybody. There's nobody in here to
Right.
defend themselves." It's the stupidity involved in putting those signs up. It's like,
Yeah.
do these people, how do these people even live on
The
their
barrel,
own?
the barrel is this way. It's full of fish. Come
Yeah,
on in.
right. It's like, how do these folks find food and eat? I mean, because they're dumb as a box of rocks to put up a sign like that. Like, why don't you put a sign out in front of your house saying, "My doors are unlocked, I don't own guns, and I keep a bunch of money under my mattress"? Just the stupidity it's numbing, man. It's like, and it's so prevalent, and people think it's a good idea. Oh, what do we do? It's and we have to take back the education of our children, because and that's one of the many reasons we needed a range. But one of the reasons we moved to a more rural area is because we want to have control over how we raise our children, and we don't want them indoctrinated into any particular belief system, which is what's happening in most of the public schools. The larger the city, the more likely it is your children are going to be indoctrinated into things. I mean, we have school systems now, one of the largest school systems in the country just decided they're going to give a day off for protesting. I'll guarantee you it won't be for Second Amendment protests or rallies. Right. It's going to be for, that Greta chick that travels around on diesel burning trains using single-use plastic food things to stuff her face full of food. And oh my gosh, I'm picking on a child, but that girl goes around, tells me I've wrecked her childhood while she's sitting on a diesel burning train going across Europe speaking, and she's eating food out of single-use plastic devices, and she's telling me I'm a bad person. Jeez. And there's people out there cheering it on.
Yeah.
Al Gore flies all over the world preaching his green thing, and he's flying all over. His carbon footprint's 1 billion times worse than mine in my Jeep. But anyway, I digress. It says we got a super chat here. It says, "Tim, since discovering you, I took seriously my 2A right. I now own an AR-15 and a Glock 19 in New York. It was a battle just to get through the paperwork. Thank you for your voice, true patriot freedom." Thank you, brother, and thank you for standing up for your rights. And hopefully you found like-minded folks in New York. I mean, that's what's crazy about New York. Everybody thinks of New York as synonymous with New York City, and it's not. A good chunk of that state is rural. And it's very much, a firearms culture. They hunt, they want to do all this stuff, but the politics of New York, just like Chicago and Illinois, dictate the policies for the entire state. And unfortunately, the Americans living, it's a beautiful state. And they're forced to live under this draconian rule. Old Bloomberg, who wants to, put a fat tax on a 42-ounce Coke and make you drink out of paper straws that collapse after 3 sips. I mean, and they run the politics for the whole state. It's just unbelievable. But it's good to know that folks out there in New York and California and Washington State and Connecticut, they're fighting. I mean, one of the things I think is absolutely hysterical is when they, I think it was Connecticut, passed their registration law, they had no compliance. Like less than 1% of the people registered anything. Again, a big middle finger. What do? They can't arrest the entire state population. They can't put 1 million people in prison. They don't know what to do. They extended the deadline and they still said, "Screw you. We're not registering anything." And yet Virginia wants to try the same scheme. They think they're going to get different results. That's the very definition of being crazy, man, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result there each time.
Well, and especially in Virginia versus Connecticut. I mean, the demographic is a little different.
Yeah, Virginia. I mean, that's what scares me, man, about Virginia, because, like I said, Indiana would be a lot easier to flip, I think, than because we kind of, we'll have Democratic, mayors and stuff like that. Look, Pete Buttigieg is from my state, right? He's the mayor of South Bend, so, and he's running for president. I mean, we kind of walk that line. I mean, it's very conservative. Even the Democrats that run, I mean, they're very pro-gun Democrats for the most part. But we could be flipped, just like Virginia, man. I don't care where you live, Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas. They could, if Bloomberg spends enough money and gun owners don't show up at the polls, You're going to get your state flipped.
Voter apathy is our biggest enemy.
And hey, brother, a Patreon super chat from a Patreon. Thank you, brother, for the support. It means so much. Let's grab it. See where we're at here at time wise. We're at 45 minutes, so we're going to tie things up here shortly, guys. Let's see. Super chat, $10. We're all in this together, and you're absolutely right. And that's how we have to view this. It's not just a Virginia problem. This is an American problem. Virginia is just where it's happening right now. And I truly believe, just like with the Bundy Ranch, if things really get ugly in Virginia, you're going to see patriots from all the other states going there to back up their brothers and sisters, to make sure tyranny doesn't win the day. We have to make sure that freedom prevails. And I just don't want it to come to that. I just hope these politicians realize that the patriots aren't kidding. It's they're playing a very, very, very dangerous game of this brinksmanship and saber rattling, because I know from hanging out in the patriot groups, they're not joking. They're not going to hand over anything, not voluntarily. Yeah. Oh boy. I mean, the ATF's been on a rip. I did a whole video on that just recently. We got a super chat talking about that. Shockwave, precursor to another ATF reclass. Yeah, the ATF's just been on a rip. All started, as we warned you, with the bump stock ban. It wasn't about the stocks. It was about the mechanism that they were doing it. And now that the courts are protecting the ATF's actions, it should be a slam dunk case, our lawsuit with the GOA and myself. We should have had a stay issued immediately so people didn't have to destroy their personal property. That was denied. And now the oral arguments have happened, and we're waiting for a decision from the court, but it doesn't look good. The courts are protecting the federal government. The courts are the government.
Right.
And it's just like you won't get a court to say income tax is illegal. They had to pass an amendment to the Constitution to even make it legal, but you'll never get a federal judge to say it's illegal because it would cause the whole system to collapse. The courts protect the government. And so
I think the lines between the three branches and the checks and balances are continuing to erode year after year.
Agreed. That's absolutely a true statement, because we have activist judges on the Supreme Court now. Mm-hmm. I mean,
legislating from the bench.
Yeah, it is. It's legislating from the bench. And when you have Supreme Court justices, they'll hear an entire oral argument, and the case is strong in favor of constitutionality, but politically they don't agree with it, so they rule against it. And that's happened time and time again, and it's becoming more and more common, and that is not good. Georgia, Senate Bill 281, they're passing the same laws. I'll have to look that up. When you say that, that's a super chat, $10. They're passing the same laws as what's going on in Virginia. I have a hard time seeing that happen in Georgia, but it could happen. Fight.
Atlanta's a big city.
Yeah, it is. Atlanta's just like Chicago and New York, and
it's a gravity well. Those cities are gravity wells.
Yep. And that's why you need an electoral college.
Yep.
That's how you stop this nonsense. You don't want to abolish the electoral college. You do want one at the state level. People say, oh, your vote doesn't count because the electors can vote however they want. That's not true in all states. Every state's different.
Even when they can, they
very rarely vote against.
Right.
Right. And let's see where we at. 48 minutes in. I'm going to get a couple more super chats in here. Super chat, $2. Stay true, brothers. Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. We got a $10 super chat. Nick Savage. Thank you, Nick, brother, so much for that. Greatly appreciate it. And yeah, we were talking about what to do when we get to Virginia, and how to show solidarity with our brothers and sisters there. And so I'm open to discussions on our Facebook page. If there's a certain place that we can show up, we can hang out. We're not going to make the 20th, unfortunately, but we really want to know how we can help and what we can do. Like I said, we're doing T-shirts with the Virginia theme to it, and we're taking proceeds from that and giving it to the Virginia Citizens Defense League. We're going to try to do everything we can. I want to do another live stream with Eric Pratt, and all the super chats from that the proceeds go to support the GOA. We try to fight every single way we can. I mean, you guys watching this right now have given us a very powerful voice. I mean, we just passed 1 million subscribers. Thank you, everybody, for doing that. But in doing that, you have given us a voice, because politicians now pay attention to what I say, and they solicit my commentary. They ask me to have conversations with them many times in private. We try to take that voice that you've given us very seriously. It is critical to us that we don't squander that. So we went from just doing gun videos to realizing we have to use the voice you've given us to fight politically. And I want to do gun videos. I want to have fun. I just want to talk about guns. But the sad reality is if we don't fight, we're going to lose them. And I'll be making videos about how to make black powder, and how you can make an illegal firearm. It's just, well, YouTube would get rid of that. I couldn't do that. We would just have to do makeup and cat videos, I guess.
Yeah, how to change spark plugs in your Jeep.
Yeah, right. I mean, even video gamers are having a hard time. But anyway, I'm going to go through and grab the rest of our super chats here, and then we're going to sign off. Justin, do you want to tell folks how they can find you? I want folks to be able to go over and check out your channel. You do great work. I enjoy your videos quite a bit. I'm so glad we finally had an opportunity to do this.
Yeah, me too. And I just want to stop for a minute too and say thanks to you, Tim, for having been a supporter of my tiny little channel for so long. I mean, when I probably didn't even have 1,000 subs. And I remember you back when you were Sturmgewehr.
I had to change that because nobody could spell it.
Yeah, exactly. So I thank you for that. But yeah, just an opinion. If you Google just an opinion, you'll find me obviously on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all the usual haunts.
I think it's important that folks, venture off. It's not like we're all competing for the 8 o'clock time slot. People surf, and there's so many people out there making amazing videos. We've been doing this coming up on 12 years now. So we were early in, right? And when we started making videos and taking them seriously and trying to put out serious firearms content, there wasn't a whole lot of people doing it. Now there's hundreds of thousands of people, and it's hard for channels to get noticed. And so I want to reach out to people like yourself and have other channels on and try to spread the wealth, because people need to watch some other channels and realize there's a lot of good content out there. You don't have to have 6 million, 2 million, 1 million subscribers to put out good content. There's people out there putting out much better content than I am that have 5,000 followers. And so if I can point people to their direction, I want to, because the more of us there are out there, the stronger our voices are.
Agreed.
I want 10 million gun channels on YouTube, and I want them all to have 10 million followers. It benefits us all, and so it's I need to do more videos like this, and I will. That's my New Year's resolution. And you're welcome back anytime, man. I'm going to pop up a few more super chats here. Thank you for what you do. Love the channel. This American will keep fighting in Kentucky. Love Kentucky. I am a Kentucky colonel. I wanted to live in Kentucky. It's just south of the border here, but my family through wedding or through marriage is big here in Indiana, and I want to keep my boys close to their family. Maybe I'll retire in Kentucky. I love Kentucky. I love Tennessee. I love those the states that I grew up in Kansas, and I grew up on the eastern side, so we had hills and woods. But I'm just amazed at the beauty of the mountains and stuff in Kentucky and into Tennessee, and it's just so gorgeous out there, man. You can just get lost in the woods, and that just is my thing, Yeah. Let's see, we got another super chat here. Try to catch them all. Let's see. County near upstate New York partitioning for 2A sanction. Good. It's spreading. I think it was it Tennessee passed a 2A sanctuary resolution somewhere in one of the counties. It's spreading already, even to states that are traditionally strong Second Amendment states. And it's good to see that it's happening in New York as well. It is spreading. And so let's hope it continues to spread, because you can't assume your state is safe. We've already made that point. Another super chat. Glad to have you on our side, Tim. God bless. God bless you too, brother. It means a lot. It absolutely does. I'll make sure I didn't blow past anybody here. I'm going to try to throw up everybody really quick. Keep up the fight, brothers and sisters. agree with that. And we're going to have time for a couple more, and then we're going to have to close out. Justin, is there anything you want to say? Any final words? Any words of encouragement for our friends in Virginia, churchgoers?
Guys, do what you can, and really hold yourself to task to what that means. If you could give money to organizations that are fighting, give it. If you can put your boots on the ground, you need to put your boots on the ground. That means a lot too. So
Yeah.
the days of sitting back and letting somebody else fight our fights are over, and you got to get up off the chair and get out there.
Yeah.
So do everything you can.
Yep.
So, and that's everywhere. Virginia obviously right now is the hotbed, but that's everywhere, because if it happens, as we've said tonight, if it happens in Virginia, it can happen anywhere.
And the moral of this story is, guys, vote. This could have been stopped in Virginia if gun owners had just participated in the election and didn't sit it out. I'm making an assumption there.
Yep.
But I see it in national elections.
Yeah. Here's a quick one too. As I said, I'm on the board of DSSA, and we have people in our legislative hall in Delaware all the time. And the one thing that the legislators tell them constantly: we don't care if you've got 10,000 people out on the front lawn with signs. If we know they don't vote, they're not registered to vote, we don't care.
Right.
They don't. If you're sending emails and letters to your legislators and you're calling them, the first thing they want to know is, do they vote? Are they registered to vote? So be registered to vote.
Yep, absolutely. Don't ever assume that a vote doesn't count, because it absolutely does. And we need to use the vote until we can't any further. A super chat from a company commander on a Patreon. Dave, thank you, brother, for the support. It means everything. I gotta throw this one in here because it's we had where'd it go? It's scrolling away. There we go. A big $50 one. Oskaloosa County, Florida is now a 2A sanctuary county. See, it's spreading. It's spreading. Thank you, brother, for the support. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to do some more of these random evening chats going forward. Justin, you're always welcome back, my friend. And we're going to try to get some other gun tubers on board. If you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, now through YouTube, we have a membership program. Take a look. It doesn't, for whatever reason, doesn't show up in phone apps, and it doesn't on iPhone or Android. But if you use a proper web browser on an iPad or a device like that, or on a desktop or a laptop, you'll see the community section. You'll see the membership tab, and then a join button right underneath the video player. You can now join us and get certain perks, behind the scenes information, private videos, things like that. At the highest level, you can even do a private Skype call with us. So thank you. Of course, Patreon, those are our true love. We love our Patreon supporters. So do you have anything like that, Justin?
I do. I have Patreon as well. Yeah.
So please look up Justin Opinion on Patreon. Actually, I think I follow you, don't I?
You do.
Yeah, I thought because I try to support other gun tubers on Patreon as well. But yeah, so many I forget. Sorry, man. But anyway, so guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for everything. And we'll talk to you guys here again really, really soon. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks, man.